Welcome back. Time to do another chat out in the sun. I figured this is the spot. I feel my energy is different when I'm talking out here. When I'm talking in my office with the bookshelf in the background, yeah, you know, it's kind of got that look about it, but I just feel a little bit smaller compared to when I'm out in the sun, soaking up the power of the sun. It's pretty cool. Yeah, you'll have to forgive me as well if I'm a little bit sniffly. I think I've got a hemorrhoid in my nose. I didn't think that was actually possible, like a lot of things, until it happens. But anyway, yeah, take that with a grain of salt. You know what Mother always said, don't listen to a man with a hemorrhoid, lest you end up like him. Yeah. Hopefully your mother gave you that advice. Today we're going to be talking about rowing instead of flowing. What does that mean? Well, there's a few different archetypes of boys, men getting around out at the moment. And what I see is a lot of men with this attitude to life that is very c'est la vie, go with the flow, dance your way through existence. And there's a real lack of substance that comes from a lot of what I'm seeing in men right now. I'm looking for it out in the world because you don't want to go it alone. You know, we need strength in numbers, and it feels like we're kind of going it alone at the moment. Now that's part of life, being sovereign and going it alone. But at some point, we need to be able to look around and go, you know what, you're going to be on my team. Let's do this together. You know, it's a bit of a solo man sport. And so when I look around the world, when I look around my world, I see a lot of flimsy men in the space of, say, festivals and van life. And then on the other hand, I see men that are holding it down, you know, like they've got the roof over their head and their family, but they're only just holding it down. Like, you know, they're usually relying a lot on substances, vapes, drinking, probably the carrot on the end of the stick of having some drugs here and there, weed. You know, like you're kind of glued to. A lot of these men are glued together with vice, and it's not like that strong God-given sense of vital strength that you'd hope to see around you for the times that we're going into. So there's big change coming down the pipeline. That's the context of all of this. Yeah, I got a garbage truck coming through the area. Is that a sign? There's big change coming through the pipeline, coming down the river, coming down the stream. Call it what you will. I'm going to call it World War III. And World War III, it's kind of amorphous. It's not your clear-cut Franz Ferdinand is shot in the head and his country's out against that country. Yeah, like there's some clear conflicts that are happening in the world, but World War III is kind of coinciding with the little season, the biblical little season where Satan rules earth for that period before Christ comes back. All right, we're dealing with biblical prophecies. We're dealing with World War III. We're dealing with the end of the line for a lot of things, and there's a lot of confusion at the moment, rightfully so. If you're not confused, then you're an operative. That's something Tim Dillon said. I thought it was really funny the other day. It's kind of ironic that one of the best political commentators is is Tim Dillon. I don't know, let's just leave it at that. So there's big change coming down the pipeline. World War III is upon us. It's amorphous. It's already begun. It's a spiritual war just as much as it is a physical war. And, you know, there's a season for everything. There's a season for everything in life. But right now, the season is not about playing around with silk scarves in your boxes, in your underwear, dancing around at festivals, doing ketamine. It's just not the time for that. You know, a lot of the men that would consider themselves somewhat awakened to the reality of the world we live in, or what's going on, are the ones I see the most psyopted? Yeah, let's go with that. Psyopted into this state of flimsy flow where they might just live in a van, you know, and there's nothing wrong with like traveling in a van. I've got a bus parked right there that we're going to be doing up. I'm all about having that as an option, and I'm going to get into that soon, talking about what I think we're actually meant to be doing here. But these guys, they live for nothing. They bleed for nothing. They die for nothing. They just exist, and they're somewhat awakened. You know, you might relate to this. You're somewhat awakened to the things that are going on in the world, but what do you do about it? Do you keep going on with the status quo in your normie job and normie life? You know, you go out to festivals maybe to elevate your spirits, but then it just turns into a spiritual bypass where you're escaping reality rather than bringing something back to reality so that you can actually live better, live stronger, bring value and vitality to your community. That's not happening. There's actually an exodus from the community. And yeah, these flow boys, they're flowing, but they're not rowing. Right now it's the season to actually start rowing. Okay, there's a big torrent coming down the line. Imagine this: you're in a river, all right, and maybe it's been great weather up until now. Maybe, you know, you've had a nice time kayaking along the river, but there's some storm clouds starting to form. Right, there's some rain coming, and you know, maybe you got the news, maybe you didn't, but you're at the bottom of a mountain and it's been raining on that mountain. There's a huge torrent coming down that mountain. All right, that water, that torrent is not going to be fun. That's going to destroy you. That's going to send you out to sea, and along the way churn you up and probably kill you. And what do? The torrent's already begun and you're still in the water. Well, you're not going to go and try and swim back upstream to a place you can't get to anymore, but you're also not going to go and just go limp in the water and let yourself get smashed along the rocks and dragged out to sea. What do? You start rowing. You pick a place that you can see a little bit down the stream or across to the side, and you start rowing like your life depends on it, because it really does. All right. What does that mean? So a lot of you guys might feel like you've missed the boat on crypto, missed the boat on housing, missed all of these boats. And yeah, there's some truth in that. Like, you know, maybe the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. So be it. That doesn't mean that you're completely screwed. In fact, it's not over till it's over, right? It's not over. Like, don't let your spirits drop just because your queen got taken off the board or something like that. God works in mysterious ways, and your path is still right here upon you. So where do you go from here? Okay, pick a place across the river that's not unrealistic, that you could actually realistically get to, that's still a good position. Okay, this is probably a time to take stock again. If you're trying to fight this uphill battle to get into this property market, that's probably going to burst in some way, that's going to face some form of crisis and chaos, then that's maybe not the best strategy if you're not already in it. Just saying. All right. Now, this isn't financial advice. I'm not even giving you exact advice, but it's maybe time to rethink some things if what you are aiming for now seems totally out of reach. Okay? There's going to be something else that's maybe within your reach that you could do that is probably a better aim for you, rather than swimming upstream, exhausting yourself, and then crumbling in the water and going limp. All right, so let's say maybe you missed the housing opportunity. Well, you can still stack some Bitcoin. You can, with whatever money you're getting, you can still look at what your living arrangement's going to be. This is where we get into the van situation. All right, I'm not like totally against the idea. In fact, I'm quite for the idea of having a motorhome, having a nomadic option that you can still live well from and do your things. That's potentially quite a good option. You see, that's my sideline. That's what I'm aiming for. That's the thing that, you know, we've got some good. My partner and I, we've got some reasonable resources. We're kind of lucky. All right. But if you've got nothing to rub together, you need to find an opportunity. You need to find your way in. Sam Hyde said something about this, and this is what most, I think this is also, you know, sharing the sentiment of what Warren Buffett said. If he was to redo his career and start again as a young man, he wouldn't make the same choices that he makes now. All right, you've got to kind of live dangerously when you're young. You're not ever going to escape what we'd call the matrix with a couple of bucks, all right, or a normie wage. You need to throw shit at the fan until it sticks, and then you find that thing and then you multiply it, and that's your unique value proposition that will help you or give you your ticket out of normie life. All right. Now, I'm not even ripping on normie life. There's a lot of things that need to be done. You can live a good life like that. What I'm saying here is you need to find your way in your path, and if you're just going with the flow is going to take you someplace you don't want to be right now. Okay? Right now, the flow is going out to sea. The flow is going to get really rough, and it's time to get out of the water. So, all you flow boys, it's time to pick something and run with it. Swim with it, row with it, okay? Assert your will. Don't just say la vie everything. Assert your will. Allow God to work through you and with you, but assert your will, pick a direction and move towards it, all right? Get something that you can ride the ocean with, you know? Maybe it is a mobile home, but maybe it's, you know, finding an actual woman you can do life with. That's one of the things, okay, that's one of the things that pisses me off the most about you flow boys, is you're just out here for pussy most of the time, right? Like, most of your whole life revolves around pussy and drugs, and you're not in any kind of servitude to the world. You're not providing any real service. You're just taking. You need to find and create a family unit so that you can serve, that will serve you, that will give you something to live and fight for, that will put you in favor with God. Without that, you're just nothing, man. You're just nothing. A man's real worth is what he gives and what he can give. Now, that's not just money, all right? A man can give so much more than just money. It's not money either, right? Like, money is absolutely part of the picture here. That's something we've got to deal with. That's something we've got to contend with. That is a factor of life. But a man can give so much more than just money, and a man needs to. But what are you doing it for? If you're not in some kind of sacred union or seeking sacred union, then you're going to get knocked around by what's coming down the line. You're not going to have a foundation of love, which is actually a foundation of strength to lean on. And if you don't live to serve a family, to serve a woman, to serve a community, then you're taking from it. Now, I know a lot of you men might be disenfranchised by the idea of serving a woman, and fair enough. But as men, we've got to take the initiative here. We've got to lead the dance. We've got to step back into our power and trust that God will put us with a woman that will meet us on the level that we require. Your life changes when you have a woman. Your life changes when you have that foundation of love. Without that foundation of love, you can't really mount to anything substantial, spiritually. I mean, even materially speaking, men in committed relationships seem to do a lot better. And yeah, you know, you can say that you risk a woman divorcing you and everything. Honestly, that's not the biggest risk we're going to be facing right now. You need something worth living for, something worth dying for. There is truth in blood. All right? What is it that you have to bleed for? If you don't have answers to these questions, it's time to find them. All right? Find high ground. Get out of the torrent. Stop going with the flow. It's not going to a nice place. All right? And let's be real here. You're not infinite. You don't have infinite potential. You're made of flesh and blood. There's only so much energy you have. There's only so much money you have. There's only so much time you have. Only so much intelligence and strength and capacity you have. You have to rely on a grace of God to be able to get anywhere. And in order to get that kind of grace and that favor, you must align yourself with God's will. Otherwise, you will blow over in the wind, be washed away in the water, be crushed by the earth, be burnt by the flames. You won't stand up to life. Behold, the change is upon us, and now is the time. Now's the time, folks. All right? That's the good news. Even though it's a little bit scary, now is the time. It kind of felt like my whole life was just waiting for something real to happen. And you see that a lot in societies and cultures that are in the end phase. All these things that don't matter start to matter. Everyone cares about their hair color or their sexual pronouns, or all of these other things that actually don't really matter, and then you lose sight of love. The opportunity here is to come back in alignment with God, to feel love, to feel strength, and to do something that matters. And it's going to happen whether you like it or not. So, embrace it. Find your position. Let's find each other. And we got this. Good will win. We will win. Stay vital.